Start to see OS vendors start to try and get on top of the idea of re-requesting permissions with updates, for example, which it seems pretty logical.
Yeah. Android in 2.2, for example, does a great thing. They auto-update applications unless the application changes its permissions. So this actually serves to highlight changes in permissions and target people's attention. So you're not going to distract users by looking at permission dialogues if they've already accepted and looking at that dialogue. Only if things changed on an app are you going to look at it. So I think that's actually a great thing. It might mean people will actually look at these sorts of screens. And similar to the spy apps, parenting concerns aside, many would argue that it's legitimate to have an app to see where your kids are. That's how they market themselves, right? But many would also argue that that same app is illegal and immoral and all sorts of things when it's used to spy on a competitor, for example. And do you remove that from the App Store? You might be able to say, hey, it's against our provisions, but you're also removing a pretty legitimate set of functionality from parents, for example. And I think there is this kind of gray area, like with novice versus malicious purposes, that it's going to be very interesting to see how we draw that line on the different platforms in the future. So key takeaways. Users, pay attention to what you download. I don't think I can emphasize that enough. Developers, be responsible with the data that you collect and how you use it. And if we see anybody putting sensitive data into the logs and they were at Black Hat, shame, shame, shame. Administrators, you don't want to ban apps on smartphones or smartphones. I mean, they're a great tool. They make people more productive. There's a vuln in Word. You don't put everyone on typewriters for a week until it's patched. We just need to think intelligently about it and figure out how to make these things secure and make the right decisions. Yeah. And our goal is to help give data to help people understand where the threats are and how we can solve them.
And I think it's important just to clarify, just because apps have access to certain parts of data doesn't mean they're bad. We need to look at the context. We need to be aware of them. And I think that as individuals, we need to make sure we're protecting ourselves. But more importantly, I see challenges. I think we get calls from CSOs almost every couple days now asking about, okay, we have consumer devices coming in to our corporate resources. When individuals are making decisions for themselves that then impact our enterprise, how do we think about that? I don't know if we have the answer to that problem yet, but this type of data set, the way we're approaching this, is absolutely the direction that it's going to need to take to actually solve this problem.
So if anyone has their pet questions, private questions that they want to ask mobile applications, we have a big data set and we're happy to ask them. So if you have some ideas on what apps might be doing bad, or if you're curious about behavior of certain apps, send me an email and we'll try to run them. Yeah. And thanks everybody for coming.
Yeah,
it's great.